What's up, everybody? I'm Justin Baldoni, and welcome to Man Enough Mondays, where every Monday we get together and we talk not just about how we can become better men, but how we can, in turn, become better humans. And today's episode is near and dear to my heart, as we're going to talk about something that is not normally talked about, especially amongst men, and that is mental health and specifically anxiety. And joining me, I have two incredible men. First off, my good friend, you know him as The Flash. He's outspoken and talks about mental health, and he's an advocate. But more than that, he's just a wonderful person. We live so close together, but we haven't seen each other. Grant Gustin, what's up, my dude?
Hey, man, that was such a nice intro. Thank you.
Look at the robes. Look at the robes.
Inspired by Cedric. We can't take credit.
Speaking of which, I'm a huge fan of our next man who's joined us today, and I was so honored that he was down to come on and talk with us. Cedric the Entertainer, the original king of comedy. Dude, what's up, man? How are you?
All right, brother. How are you, man? Very good. Honored to be here. It's always great when people do nice things for other people, and that's this platform you got is all about just kind of helping other guys. And so I thought it was cool when I looked it up and felt like, all right, yeah, this is an easy conversation, one I'd like to have. So it's good.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And Grant and I both felt a little less than because you showed up in the robe. So this is the robe episode. This is the robe episode of Man Enough.
Hey, man, this is called COVID casual, baby. This is the latest in COVID wear. Yeah.
Grant, you and I have talked a lot about your work schedule. I mean, you work like 14, 15 hours a day every day when you shoot The Flash. How was this break for you?
I mean, it's weird. When it first started, I said to LA, my wife, I was like, man, I've been training for this my whole life. Like, I'm a homebody and like I know how to be at home, and I haven't really been able to the past 6-7 years while we've been doing Flash. She gave me a hard time about that because she also knows that I'm an incredibly anxious person and there's a pandemic going on. So I'm like, as many people are, affected by a lot of these things in a pretty severe way at times. But it's a weird balancing act where I'm really taking this time to enjoy the time with my wife and my dogs that I never get at home. I never get to be here in California. So just kind of enjoying that and trying to let the moments of anxiety connected to what's going on in the world kind of come and pass, and try to stay in the moment and control what I can control and let the rest just kind of be for the time being.
I think the thing that we all have in common, that so many men have in common, is we all at one point or another have dealt with or are suffering from anxiety. And I think it's important to like show a cross section of what it means to be a man. Like Cedric, you have been making millions and millions and millions of people laugh for, like you said, the last 30 years. I mean, Barbershop, one of my all-time favorite movies, but between the kings of comedy and everything. And I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about mental health or anxiety.
Probably, for me, is the idea that you have to, in moments like this where you have to be still and you have to be quiet and you have to recognize like that you are more than, the image that you sell or the thing that you identify with the most that makes you who you are, right? And being a guy that was, raised in a single parent household, I believe that, what came out of this for me is I had to recognize that I was a very distant father to my kids. Like it became a reality when you have to slow it down like this and get to know people and be there, because I came from that generation where the man made the money. You go out, this is your way of taking care of your family. As long as you do that, then that's your job. And so I took great pride in that. I took great pride in my kids being my kids because I was their dad. And, now that they're teenagers and, formulating their own personalities and their own schedules and these kind of things, is that kind of thing that as a parent, you got to catch up to. And that is it was one of these things that, you know, surprise you. It one that, you know, it hurts when you realize you don't really know your children the way you kind of believe you should, because you project an image that says that you are this guy, but then you recognize that when life slows down, man, you just kind of did your thing and you let somebody else do a lot of the work. And so that's the thing that I've had to, you know, really face a lot during this time of COVID, because you have no excuses. I don't have to be anywhere. I now have to, I don't have a schedule like, guys, I got to be at work and doing a set, you know me. And when I come home, I've been at work all day. Give me a moment. Let me just watch my TV in peace. And I'll come and say hi to you and just kind of say, hey, how was your day? Little things. And, you know, hey, if you need me, let me know. But for the most part, you know, you're not engaged. You're kind of letting people develop it. And so that's been really an enlightening space for me right now. This recognition of like, man, I'm not who I thought I was, and that's interesting. So,
yeah, I feel that on a lot of levels. I think that's one of my biggest fears, is growing up and having my kids look at me and kind of be resentful of my work. And as I was just saying, you know, my son doesn't understand the concept of work. Right. So all work is time away from him, and he's right there, and he's just banging and crying. And I just wonder, like, what am I doing to him? And for me, that's something that gives me a lot of anxiety, is this feeling like I'm failing my family, which is something that I think I've thought about before, but now, you know, I have a therapy session at 3:00 today. Because it's just been building up in me, and I just feel like what am I doing to my kids, that I'm always just out of reach, or like I'm never quite available to them.
It's a practice of newer generational dads to be a lot more engaged. And again, I don't know exactly, maybe in your own personal household as you growing up with a kid, but my father wasn't there. So I kind of made up being a dad the way I thought it should be, which was, again, is me providing and giving you the things that I think you deserve, but not necessarily like caring that you care. Like, you know, we like, boy, don't start to cry. You know, what are you crying for? Be a man, you know, and then you think you taught your son something. You be like, I didn't teach you anything. Like, that was nothing. So you got to give yourself credit for just being in tune, man, you know.
I appreciate that. I will work on that. Grant, how are you holding up, man? I know, like, pre-COVID-19, you've been very open about how you've always kind of battled with the version of anxiety because you're a bit of an introvert, yet here you are, like, now super famous, and you have to kind of perform when you meet people. But I know you're more comfortable kind of like with your robe in your house with your wife. How has this triggered any anxiety for you?
I've actually found a better balance than I've been able to find while I'm working constantly, and because I have a lot of the time to do a lot of these things for myself that help my mental health. And I have, like Cedric touched on, you know, all these excuses when I'm working 13, 14-hour days, why it's okay for me to not have time to work out as much as I want to, or to call my family and talk to them when I get home from work, or to even have a conversation with my wife about how her day was when I get home from work. Because I have stress, as you know, I'm exhausted and I'm stressed, and I have work to prepare for the next day, which is always my excuse for needing to just like put myself before others. And I was actually watching one of these things that you guys were doing, and I forget who the guest is, but he said to try to understand someone before you try to be understood. I'm sure I butchered how he said it, but that really resonated with me.
The angry therapist, John Kim.
Yeah, I mean, because that's like something I've really been trying to work on in all my relationships, but especially my marriage the past few years. And just being home and having time to really try to emotionally understand what's going on with my wife, as I also like can't help but like constantly share what's going on with me and my anxieties and my thoughts, and having time to meditate more often. And work out more often, and do things that make me happy. Like I'm trying to learn piano and guitar, which I never have time for before. But all these things I'm realizing, like I'm trying to do them in a way where I can maintain a lot of these things when I go back to my busy schedule. And I'm realizing like I don't really have any excuse to not do all these things that make me happy, and to spend more time trying to understand what's going on with my wife and her mental health. So it's actually been, you know, when I can ignore everything or shut it out for the time being of everything else that's going on in the world, like it's been really good for my mental health, because I found more balance just within my relationships and my own life, and kind of what's going on with me mentally.
Cedric, I see you nodding your head. Do you kind of feel a similar way in that as men, we've oftentimes used our, like the fact that we're providers or we're working to kind of delay or like push away the self-care we need for our own mental health?
Oh, without a doubt. I think, you know, again, those fall back into the old, you know, archetypes of being a man, where you got to be strong. You got to be the leader of your family. You don't show weakness. I remember like being a teenager, and no matter what your injury was, your coach say, "Run it off." You know, you'd be like, "But my leg's broken, coach. Run it off." You know, so you gotta, you know, so I think that attitude, that idea is one that nowadays when we're inside this, I love it. He said he was going to have to come out there.
I had to, bro. I'm like getting so sweaty. I'm like, I wasn't sure if I was on camera or not. Like, I got to take it off. Like, I respect you, but I have to take it off.
You probably wasn't at the time, but I just love the fact that you had mentioned it earlier. And you like,
I couldn't anymore.
My wife has it freezing in my house. That's really the only reason I have my robe on. It's so
Our
cold.
AC is broken.
Yeah, but you know, I must say that like so many of us, I do believe that slowing it down, having the opportunity to slow it down, and this is like this reminds you of those little bitty times when you leave your phone at home, right? You go, oh, I left my phone, and you have the anxiety at first, and then you get used to it. You like have this real moment of zen where you don't even care, right? Like I don't care that I don't have my phone with me, and now I'm just going through my day, like not looking at a text and don't care what happened on Instagram, and I feel so much freer, and I'm good with that. And that's kind of what started to happen in this COVID. It's like you started to be like, you know, everything is like cooler. Let me just, you know, let me sit up here and chill with my wife for a while and talk and take it easy and hear what's going on and be patient about it. I actually can hear you. I'm not ready to go on to what it is that I'm talking about. Like that kind of person where you only talking so I can talk. Like you basically, so you want to make sure that you maintain it afterwards. Like Grant was saying, is you want to be able to, you know, have these practices that you, hopefully your normal life doesn't go back and put you right back in the spin cycle. And next thing you know, you're the little guy you always been.
My wife keeps saying she hopes that we don't go back to normal.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people say that.
You know, but as a civilization, as a society, you know, one thing that is for sure happening though, as a result of this, is depression numbers are going up, right? Obviously, we know from the data that men are more likely to kill themselves than women, but women are also more likely to get help and seek help than men. And Cedric, I want to start with you because I feel like there's a generational stigma to talking about like anxiety or where you're at emotionally with men, and also therapy. You know, and I think you had just started, I think for the first time, maybe going to therapy. And I'm just curious, what got you there and what prevented you before?
Well, you know, my therapy came through marital therapy, couples therapy, which was probably very necessary because, and it goes back a couple of years, but it helped me to understand that I actually needed, you know, this place to voice things that were, you know, actually issues probably with me that I've been having and that had no idea of how to deal with. And you know, and it kind of goes back to, you know, which, you know, to the point why I feel men are more likely to commit suicide. It's a degree of selfishness that guys, you know, kind of come or grown or expected to deal with, that allows them to either be great, powerful human beings that, that attack goals and conquer things and invent things and be these kind of crazy, extremely, unique people in the world. You have to be selfish in a way to kind of push to these goals. That same selfishness doesn't allow you to share anything with someone, so that you feel like your only resolves and your only answers are that you have them. And so it leads men to do things very erratically and, based off, a problem that they've either decided that's too big to fix, and never allow, someone else to chime in and give you, a way to think about that. So that's one of the kind of the things that I learned in therapy, because, when you're in a marriage, and, I've been married 20 years, and you, like most people, you have the kids start to grow, and then you realize that the connection that you have with your mate has been for a number of those years, when the kids were in that young age, was built around the corporation of your family, and no longer the relationship of you and your wife. Y'all doing, you CEO, she's CFO, and y'all building this corporation, but nobody's in love. Nobody's operating like, I know you as this mate of mine. And then you can let that get so callous that, eventually you go back to your individual self. Everybody kind of goes to their own corners. And that's the part that I had to learn in therapy, and what I felt like helped me. And it helped me answer questions, or lead me to want to ask more questions about myself, about my attitude towards so many things. And so I never would have done it if I didn't have the kind of wife that insisted on us not throwing in the towel. You know what I mean? Like, again, because my singular attitude would have been, hey, if you feel that way about it, then, F it. You know what I'm saying? Do you. But as someone that's like saying, hey, no, we didn't put too much into this, and do you love me or do you not love me? And they're like, I love you. All right, well, let's go to work, man. Let's not throw it away. Let's go to work.
Oh, Cedric, it's so refreshing to hear you talk like that, and I really hope that men hear you. Are you convinced now that it would be something that you would try just for yourself, not just for marriage, if you're struggling with something?
I have at that point.
Oh, nice.
Do it after that period. I thought then it became very apparent that my father, who, he was around, but, I considered myself being raised in a single parent home. Even though I knew who my dad was, I claimed that, single parent home. But my dad was there. I just wouldn't give him his credit, and then I had to, through therapy, had to talk about it, had to learn and realize, like, oh man, he was 20 years old. I'm judging, as a child, I got my opinion of it. But now that as an adult, I go, this guy was 20 years old with a kid. Like, he was not ready. Now let me go and talk to the man and find out what he was going through. And now I can be like, all right, I got you, man. Like,
Wow.
I wish you would have known better, but when I was 20, I probably would have ran too. You know what I mean? Like, that was the mentality people had. Like, he didn't have the kind of father that gave him the kind of guidance to be a good dude. He lived in a world where, hey man, like, scram skaboodle.
So in some ways, therapy has created an opportunity for like intergenerational healing for your family.
Yes.
That's
and
amazing.
I think that's so important for men, especially young men. And when I think about the generation under especially in African-American communities, where throughout the 90s and the 80s, so many Black families were affected by drugs and jail, that the separation of the family, you got so many young men that, they raised themselves. And so now they're coming into their own, they're getting into their 30s, their late 30s, and they don't have these tools of men to talk to, people to lead them. So the examples that you try to have in the world are ones that you that you fight hard for, to be known as a good guy, to be a person that speaks his mind. But you know, I don't necessarily have to do that where I'm confrontational all the time. But I am a person that can stand up for what it is I believe in, and I can show that I have power, and I can show I have integrity, and I can also show that I'm kind and generous and compassionate to others all at the same time. So
I'm so excited for people to see this other side of you. You know,
yeah.
I'm so grateful that you're opening up. Grant, I can only imagine the pressure of what it is to be a superhero. Like, because I don't know if fans can really separate who you are as Grant from who you are as the Flash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like you touched on earlier. You said about me that I am more comfortable not being in the spotlight and not really putting myself out there. I don't think I'm really. I've never thought of myself, at least, to be built as someone that should be like this really outspoken advocate for anything. But sometimes there's just things that resonate so much with me or mean something to me that I feel social media is so useful that way, where it's just there to like put out your thoughts and what you think about things. And a lot of times I'm not thinking like how important this might be for, some kid to hear, or it's just what's on my mind and what's on my heart. And it's something that that's how I use my social media. And as far as my character, like, I know I'm never gonna live up to who Barry Allen is and what the Flash is and what that legacy is. And I'm a regular human with plenty of my own flaws, and I'm sure I'll let people down in their own way when they meet me and they're expecting something and then they just get me. So I don't know. I mean, as you said, anxiety and depression have been something that I've dealt with since really before I can remember. And I thought it was just something that was going on with everybody.
Do you have a darkest moment that you'd be willing to share?
It's not necessarily a darkest moment. I mean, there's like my darkest self that I think can come out from time to time, where I tend to put walls up. And I've really worked on this a lot in more recent years, and it's been less of a factor, thankfully, in my personal and professional life. But at times, on set, like if I'm really stressed out and overwhelmed, and I really think that nobody else is feeling what I'm feeling or can understand what's going on with me, like I'm not going to be who I want to be in those moments, or I haven't been always in the past, and I've let my stress and anxieties get the best of me. And then I'm not giving my coworkers and my job, the self that I want to give them. And I'm not always showing, I guess, the level of respect that I would want to receive from them. And it's been something I've really worked on the past few years.
When you're in that like dark version of yourself, because I know all of us men have been there, whether it's because we get home after 16 hours or someone triggered us outside the house and we walk in, and then like we always take it out on the people we're closest to. What do you do, Grant, and then Cedric, to like help yourself get out of that space? How do you take care of yourself emotionally?
A friend pointed out to me on set one time, like, because I've always been pretty good about talking about what's going on with me, but it's not always helpful. Like he said to me, like, it's like, I feel like sometimes when you go on these rants about like what's really bothering you, like you get more wound up, like more stressed out, like instead of just kind of taking a breath and helping myself get through that. And then what I'm trying to get better about in all aspects of my life is really understanding what's going on with the other people around me, instead of constantly trying to have them understand what's going on with me.
And Grant, are you going to therapy? Are you a pro therapy person?
Yeah, it was something as a kid that like no one else in my family was in therapy, and I resisted as a kid. And I think when my mom had put me in therapy in my early teens at one point, I felt really uncomfortable about it, didn't understand how to have those conversations, was put on some type of anxiety medicine that I didn't like at all. So then that was my idea about what therapy was like, oh, they're going to medicate me and then I'm not going to feel like myself. And as an adult, it's really flipped. And my wife is also, as Cedric was saying about his wife, like a stronger person than I am and a smarter person than I am. And before we even got married, we did premarital therapy and then kind of kept doing it just because it was something she wanted. She grew up Catholic, and it was something that was important to them as a family, and was something she just wanted us to do, even though there weren't specific issues we were trying to address at that point. But then, things came up for us as a couple, and things I didn't know about with her, and she's not necessarily as good or doesn't share as frequently as I do with things that bother her. So she just kind of lets them fester. And so it was nice to hear things from her come up. And then there's things individually for each of us that, coming up. My parents got divorced when I was like 13, 14, and it was a tough age for that to happen. And so there were things for me that I knew were going to come up, but then there was things for my wife that, she thought she more or less had like a perfect childhood, and her parents are still together, and she has 2 brothers and sisters, and the family's really close and supportive of each other. But all kinds of things came up for her too, individually in her childhood, and we all have scars that we're either aware of or not aware of. And I'm definitely therapy, pro therapy for sure.
And thank you for sharing that. Cedric, do you want to just maybe answer your thoughts on what you do and what maybe men can do when they feel themselves getting to that breaking point?
Like Grant was saying, the real key is to try to slow it down and allow yourself to hear someone else before you just kind of stand on your soapbox or whatever your point is at the time. And that's the thing that, I try to find to do. And it can be always misconstrued, because usually if you're quiet and you're trying to like just, breathe in, breathing exercises is something that I do a lot too, is just stop and just breathe, man. There is a better way of kind of handling the issue if you can just step away from it for a second to get yourself cool and then talk, right? Like, and then like kind of gather your thoughts. And so when you're married, that's a hard thing to do, because that action is perceived as some kind of countering. You're like, wait a minute, I'm trying not to argue. Like, why are you so quiet? But I do feel that I've learned for that to be the best way for me to kind of control my anxiety in any moment, is to take a breath and to take a step and to take a beat, and then try to just not let my thoughts and my anger and my thing come out as this hot throwing things that's like feels like hot at the moment.
I love the quote, the idea of being quick to listen and slow to anger.
Yeah.
Okay, last 30 seconds, each of you. One man is watching. He doesn't go to therapy. He's struggling. He's not sharing it with his family. What do you say to that person?
The therapist that I went to personally, he said something to me, early on when I had this kind of, this energy about, who I was and what I do. And he said, you know what? We're all a community. Find out exactly what's broken. So take your time, go talk to somebody about it, and then try to find out what's broken. Just know that you are not individually the only one responsible for everything that happens to you. And I thought that was very important for me to understand why I was even at therapy. And I would encourage anybody that's going through problems to know that you're directly connected to many things that you care about. If it's not just yourself, think about those things you care about. They're all connected to you. So now figure out how you want to fix those things before you decide to do anything erratic or just based off your own knowledge. Go find a little help.
What Cedric said, I think, is everything. I really think that everyone could benefit from having the therapy session where it's not just talking to someone in your life that has stock in what's going on. So their response isn't going to necessarily be as helpful as someone that's just kind of an outside person from your life and getting their perspective. And I think the most important thing is there's no shame in wanting to go and talk to someone or feeling like you need help with your mental health, because everybody's dealing with something. And we all tend to think that, no one's feeling what I'm feeling, but a lot of people are in the same boat. So there's just no shame in wanting to talk about what's going on with you. I think people see it as a weakness to admit that you're not mentally strong, but it's something that we all need to pay more attention to and work on, and it'll not only help ourselves but all the relationships around us.
And true vulnerability is strength. Being vulnerable enough to say, I need help is true strength. And I'll end it with this thought. The greatest myth of masculinity is that we have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing. And it's why we're doing this show. And it's why I'm so grateful to you both for coming on and sharing is we don't have to do it alone. Because if everybody feels we have to do it alone and we're all feeling the same things, then we're depriving ourselves of the human connection, right? The very thing that's being taken away from us physically right now. And I really hope that men can listen to both of you and see some of themselves in your stories and be willing to maybe reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. But real quick, I want to end with this. Cedric, you said breathing was helpful for you. Can I take you guys through two beats of a breathing thing that's been amazing for me?
Yeah, cool.
We'll do it together. We can model it. So I've been doing cold plunging to help my anxiety.
Yeah, you have.
I've done it twice. It's a crazy thing.
In cold plunging, one of the things I learned is called box breathing. And we'll just do it. Maybe we can all do it together real quick. It's super simple. So the idea is that your breathing is like a box. So we'll go 4 seconds in through the nose, 4 seconds, hold your breath, 4 seconds out through the mouth, and 4 seconds hold. And that's it. And what I've found is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system and it just calms me down faster than any other type of breathing I've done. And I use it when I get in to the water and I can feel that ache and that burn that happens in the cold water just start to dissipate when I do it, which is kind of magical. So if we do it together, and if you're watching this, you can do it with Cedric and with Grant and I. It's super simple. It takes 10 seconds. And if you're having a moment of like intense anxiety or fear or anger, take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just try this. All right, so we'll do it together. 4 seconds in through the nose, go. And hold it. 3, 2, 1, and out through the mouth, 4 seconds. And hold it. 3, 2, 1. And that's it. With that, I want to thank our sponsor, Safeguard. Safeguard is donating $10 million of soap and sanitizer products towards COVID-19 relief. You can check out Safeguard America. Wash your hands, everybody. And more than anything, if you are struggling, if you are having suicidal thoughts, if you are just needing someone to talk to, you can get free and private counseling services from Disaster Distress Hotline. The number is 800-985-5990, or you can text Talk With Us to 66746. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline or the Domestic Violence Hotline, and all those numbers should be up there right now. Grant, Cedric, you guys are amazing. I hope we can do this again. We're going to shoot Man Enough Season 2 as soon as this is all better, and I hope you guys come back.
Yeah, man. It's all good.
Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and I'm going to take off my robe now because I'm like Grant. I'm a little sweaty. But Cedric, keep yours on.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys so much. What's up, everybody? I'm Justin Baldoni, and welcome to Man Enough Mondays, where every Monday we get together and we talk not just about how we can become better men, but how we can, in turn, become better humans. And today's episode is near and dear to my heart, as we're going to talk about something that is not normally talked about, especially amongst men, and that is mental health and specifically anxiety. And joining me, I have two incredible men. First off, my good friend, you know him as the Flash. He's outspoken and talks about mental health, and he's an advocate. But more than that, he's just a wonderful
compassionate to others all at the same time. So
I'm so excited for people to see this other side of you. You know, it's
yeah,
really, I'm so grateful that you're opening up. Grant, look, you, I can only imagine the pressure of what it is to be a superhero. like, like you literally, because I don't know if fans can really separate who you are as Grant from who you are as the Flash. So tell me why has talking about mental health and depression and anxiety been so important for you? Because a lot of your fans are young men that I think identify with your character also. Um, so I'm just curious, if you could take me on a little bit of your journey, like Cedric has.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like you touched on earlier. You said about me that I am more comfortable not being in the spotlight and not really putting myself out there. I don't think I'm really. I've never thought of myself, at least, to be built as someone that should be like this really outspoken advocate for anything. But sometimes there's just things that resonate so much with me or mean something to me that I feel social media is so useful that way, where it's just there to like put out your thoughts and what you think about things. And a lot of times I'm not thinking like how important this might be for, some kid to hear, or it's just what's on my mind and what's on my heart. And it's something that that's how I use my social media. And as far as my character, like I know I'm never gonna live up to who Barry Allen is and what the Flash is and what that legacy is. And I'm a regular human with plenty of my own flaws, and I'm sure I'll let people down in their own way when they meet me and they're expecting something and then they just get me. So I don't know. I mean, as you said, anxiety and depression have been something that I've dealt with since really before I can remember. And I thought it was just something that was going on with everybody. everyone has scars. So I really think that everyone could benefit from having the therapy session where it's not just talking to someone in your life that has stock in what's going on. So their response isn't going to necessarily be as helpful as someone that's just kind of an outside person from your life and getting their perspective.
You can do it with Cedric and with Grant and I. It's super simple. It takes 10 seconds. And if you're having a moment of like intense anxiety or fear or anger, take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just try this. All right, so we'll do it together. 4 seconds in through the nose, go. And hold it. 3, 2, 1, and out through the mouth, 4 seconds.